Whenever you guys are ready, go ahead and let me know.
It's recording.
It's recording.
All right. Hello and welcome back to Late to the Party. I am your host, Jason. I'm joined by my fellow cavemen, Isaac, Jose, and Nate the Great of the Collection Connection. Ooh, that's a nice hat, buddy. I wonder where I could get one. Today we are reviewing the classic, amazing film, A Clockwork Orange. It's based on the book by the same name, and it is produced, directed by Stanley Kubrick, 2001 Space Odyssey. I don't even want to get into the buckets with you. I don't even want to fucking talk about this movie before we all just go ahead and agree. It is 10 out of 10, baby. Whoo! Wow.
Ooh,
it is masterpiece of cinema. But I'm just kidding. We'll get into it. We can discuss the buckets at the end. But man, I feel like every scene in this movie could be almost. You could do a whole class on every scene. However, we'll just go through a quick plot synopsis and then we'll get into some of our favorite scenes and all that. It's about a degenerate, let's say, Alex. He does a lot of bad stuff. He rapes, he pillages, he takes what he wants, and he does it all to some classic Beethoven. He gets reformed, let's say, by the system, goes back home. His dad's a cuck, and he becomes a prop of the institution. So, with all that said, I'm curious, what scenes stuck out to you, Isaac? Is there a particular scene that maybe really like you felt attached to?
The one scene that always sticks out to me every time I watch this movie, and from the first time I watched this movie, was the final scene where the old man who figures out that he's the dude that did the deed to him.
Right. So Alex raped his wife at the end of the movie.
He watched, and he didn't know it was him until he hears him singing in the rain while he's bathing in the tub. But the scene that sticks out is the scene where they've already got him. They have Alex. He's upstairs, and they're playing the Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and they're playing it, and you see him, and he's just there, all diabolical, nice. Very, very happy that he's finally getting his revenge because he hears him going crazy upstairs. And as it's panning out, you see the two speakers just booming upstairs. And as to the right is that one dude, his carrier, his literal carrier dude, just there like thinking. And then to the left is the lady, and she's just there like thinking too. And then it pans all the way out, and it's a pool table, and the dude that showed up to see him is just like playing with the balls into the hole. And it could be, I don't know why, but there should have been a poster of that, just of that scene, because it's always been burned out in my mind. And that's always been my favorite scene, because he's got his revenge on him and he's just torturing him. And that's like the beginning of the end for Alex, but that dude ends up getting his too.
Oh, he certainly does. And I mean, that whole guy's vibe is so artistic, like, and he makes the same mistake. He says, we'll let him in. And then again, we'll let him in. And he didn't learn. And it's almost like he wants it to happen, like, because he's like, oh, I need the inspiration for my writing or something, like the torture seems almost disconnected from him. Something that's not disconnected though was the droogs, the friends. Jose, what did you think about Alex's buddies becoming cops?
If you would have went to me, that's what I was going to talk about next, you fucker.
Did I say I meant Nate?
It's okay. No, go ahead.
Yeah, Nate, go ahead. Say.
You're the property of Xavier. Feel free. I just had to throw that in there. If I was expecting something, that would be it.
Sorry, fellas.
Oh, hey,
Who's that?
Hey, Iron Man, Captain America, right into the show. Welcome. We're already filming.
Oh, nice.
So we're talking about ACAB. What did you think of the Droogs becoming cops and torturing Alex nearly to death?
Oh, I thought that's fairly typical of reality.
I think
I've known a few police officers in my time, and they're not always of the highest quality that one would expect.
definitely. All right. Well, Josh, got some questions for you.
Yeah.
Nate, why don't you go ahead and take that one because you were ready to go. And Josh, I got a few for you. Don't worry.
I flash back to that scene in my head. I watched that movie when I was like 17. And I always think of those guys becoming cops whenever I had come up with a cop just fucking with me for no reason. I remember I was at this this house party in Long Beach back in the day. And it just so happens we were seeing Sublime play. And the house part, it got broken up. And I was like, I think I was like 18, and they kicked us out of the house. But I had got pushed out of the house, but all my friends who drove me to the party were inside the house. So the cops are like, you have to leave. And I'm like, but they're inside and I'm outside, and they drove me here. I can't leave. I'm not going to just start walking home from down in Long Beach during the 90s gangster era. And they were like asking me, it was just ridiculous. And I'm like, this is those guys. Like, these are guys who used to pick up people in high school. They got out, and then they realized in the real world you can't fuck with anybody. So they're like, hey, there's a way to fuck with people. Let's go get a badge. So I'm constantly reminded of things like that. And now, do I think that all cops are like that? No. Do I think that most cops are like that? No. But have I been fucked with cops like that? Absolutely.
Right on. Damn. Well, they felt a little too real. They did.
Yeah.
Jose, as an English major, as a purveyor of the media, what did you think about Alex, the narrator, his speech, where he kind of mixed in the high class, low class, interesting wordplay? I'd like to hear your thoughts on his speech.
I've never felt like wanting to punch somebody so much in my damn life, man. Like this movie really just did. It was just, I've met so many people like that are, that can speak, with elevated vocabulary. They know how to use it properly, but are such assholes and do so much messed up stuff that it's like, it doesn't excuse, just because you're a little quote unquote educated, it doesn't excuse you from, he should have been treated a lot worse, in my opinion. And to kind of piggyback and go back to a previous question that you asked Isaac, the scene that just got me like, man, this movie did its job is at the end, how the guy from the institution has his arm around him and says, you're a victim, my boy, you're a victim. And he says, I sure am. And he's talking, I was just like, oh my God, like Kubrick did his job, man, because I just, yeah, he sounds like a smart kid, so he should know right from wrong, but it just, it stirs up so many emotions. Him alone. And it's just the fact that,
Jose,
what's up?
is this your first time seeing it?
No, the thing is, I've always been a firm believer that, books and movies, if you watch them at different stages of your life, you interpret them differently. I had actually seen A Clockwork Orange, believe it or not, guys, years ago. I know, shocking. And I was always like, oh man, that guy's crazy, like, holy shit, because, I was a hoodlum too. So I'm like, at the end, I was always like, man, that fool got away with it. Ain't that some shit? this time around now as an adult with, you know, I hope, you know, a little bit more maturity, a little bit more understanding of the real world with some kids, and who sees the problems, you know, of what these hoodlums cause. It just pissed me off that he got away with it, and that the world's going to see him as a victim as opposed to, and it's like anything else in life. Like, so many times the dude that creates the most atrocities is the one that ends up being seen like he's a victim of his circumstances. That's why oftentimes I hate when people go back and rewrite origin stories for certain characters and make them have this traumatic sort of background. It's like, yeah, you know, there is some trauma there, but at the same time, it's like Alex had a good upbringing from what I could tell. The parents were a little, you know, off their rocker, but it looked like they provided him with the essentials and what he needed. And it looked like they were there. And even after he got out of jail, they had to be convinced by the other guy to not let him back in the house because all he did was just cause them trouble.
Well, his dad was a fucking cuck, and his mom, I don't even know what her deal was. That was something spectacular.
You know what I mean? But it just kept rubbing me the wrong way, where it's like this guy comes off as being so, you know, he's being intelligent. He's obviously well read. He has an appreciation for classical music, which I don't think, you know, but.
Well, do you think his violent acts, he certainly sees them as art, and Kubrick displays them as almost a dance or an art. Do you find them to be some sort of art, or are they just horrific?
I think, yeah, just like everything else, art is always in the you know, eye of the beholder. So to me, that wasn't art. Like what he was doing was atrocious. Like, really, dude? Like, damn. I have this thing. I can't really. I feel really disturbed by rape scenes. Like personally, like because of things that people close to me have gone through. I have this thing where I just can't watch it. So to me, it was disgusting. To me, it was like, dude, like, and you know what I mean? It was tough to watch.
I absolutely do. I mean,
it was tough to watch. So to me, it's like I said, watching it at a younger age and now watching it as I'm older, it's my perception of you know, how I see him has changed. And now I'm just like, he's such a big old piece of shit that got away with everything that he did. And that you know what I mean? Kubrick did his job with you know, stirring up those emotions inside of me.
That's really cool that you say that, because I feel like one of the biggest critiques I hear about the movie is that it didn't do its job of portraying Alex as a nasty dude, and that he almost glorifies him. But it seems like you were picking up the nastiness that was going down. Josh, I was wondering what you would feel about almost like the science versus nature. Like, we have Alex, he seems like he acts on impulse, he fucking does what he wants. He's just like a very base guy. And then we have these calculated individuals who are going through logical steps and trying to almost harness him. So I'm wondering what you kind of felt about that, and how he kind of fits into our society, and if this is a society that's modern or perhaps postmodern. I don't know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, though.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be said. I want to say that just first off that I agree with Jose's assessment. I saw this thing years ago, probably when I was still in high school, and I haven't seen it since. And watching it again, I had a completely different reaction to it than I did back in the day. So it's interesting to see how the difference in time and the different things that, you know, I've experienced has transformed the way that I look at it. But to get to your question specifically, so I'm a big proponent of nature over nurture, which is not to say that nurture cannot have some kind of an impact. The reality is that we're all fundamentally evil. And the question is just how much of that is pouring out. And I think, you know, whatever the criticisms of Kubrick's rendering of Alex in this film, I don't think it's disputable that Alex is an awful human being. I know that the way that it's portrayed is that he gets away with everything, but he's an evil young man. And one of the things that I took note of is during his time in prison, when he's sucking up to the priest. The priest theology is just awful. This whole whole notion of the freedom of the will, as if that's some kind of a justification or some kind of a thing to be achieved. It ignores the central issue, which is that, and especially for supposedly a man of the cloth, you ought to be viewing things through the lens of what the Bible teaches. And when you just take a stroll down the Ten Commandments, you can see how wicked a person Alex really is, and how much he deserves real justice, which is what he ends up escaping, 2 years into his sentence by being a part of this program. So, I think Alex is the kind of guy that grew up in what seems like a cush kind of situation. Didn't have a whole lot of supervision because, as you mentioned, his father was somewhat of a cuck, and his mom is, I don't know, some kind of a Dolores Umbridge with hair color problems. And, he's just unrestrained. He's got no discipline. He's got no accountability, and he's free to run rampant. And so he does. He's able to live out those inner desires.
Right on. That's exactly what I was looking for. I did want to touch a bit on the music. I feel like it's very key in the way that this movie's, presented. It's a bit distorted. It's a bit classical. Nate, do you feel like it did a good job of portraying the gruesomeness, or do you think that perhaps it's not so gruesome?
Classical music is pretty complicated. I remember having a conversation with my ex brother-in-law now, and we were talking about how close to classical music that metal is. Not in what you're hearing, but if you were to write the notes out and look at them arranged, that they're very similar. There's lots going on in the classical music. So, I mean, the emotion that's conveyed, like you can push a lot. You can push a big agenda with, I mean, how many of those operas and things, like, you ever watch Star Wars without the music in it? They thought it was horrible when they were watching it before they had John Williams put into it. And then once they did, they were able to use the music to convey the emotions. So music is integral. Now, I don't know that I associate Beethoven with horrible violence, but apparently he did, and maybe I will moving forward.
Nice. I like that. Well, we already gave it 10 buckets. Everyone agreed it's a 10 out of 10 movie.
What about
before
Josh?
we even started? And Josh joined late, but I'm sure he gives it a 10 out of 10. But we'll go through the formalities. We'll hear everyone's buckets, even though they're 10 out of 10s. If you guys have any final thoughts about the film, go ahead and speak them. I'll start with my caveman, Jose, Isaac, Nate, and then Josh.
Going off of the scale that Nate's always presented for us, and the truth is this movie is epic, and it honestly does deserve the 10 buckets. I'm still gonna give it 9 out of 10.
All right.
I don't know what it was missing for me. I think it does definitely feel dated, because some of the scenes and some of the settings and everything, they try to make it look futuristic, but in their attempt to make it look like that, it actually ends up looking way, it shows its age. So it just misses the mark with certain things here and there, but it's an epic movie. I just don't think it's my 10 out of 10. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10. And I would go lower, but the fact that it makes me really want to punch that dude, I feel like it did its job, so it deserves a higher score.
Nice. All right. Well, I like that. Isaac, let's
just
hear
wanna-
your justification for the 10 out of 10.
I just want to say, you took a page out of his book by the record collection of propositioning on a woman. That's how you got married.
Thank you. I did all right. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 10, dude. It's a historical film. Kubrick did a great job with it. It's got so many cultural relevance. Like it's touched everything from The Simpsons to freaking a cartoon that the kids just watched the other day that I was just like, oh man, they go all the way to Cartoon Network and references now too. This show's not that old, so damn, it's still showing reference. So it's a 10 out of 10.
Nice. For anyone wondering, I'll give you a quick synopsis about that record collection. I had a very, very eclectic, very well put together record collection, and I showed my now wife all the sweet records I have, and invited her up to my room to preview, what I had to show. And needless to say, it's a fucking awesome collection because she's now my wife.
I heard you only had 3 records.
That's all it takes.
With no record player. Isaac said you had no record player, so I don't know.
A microphone.
I had missed the electricity payment too, so there was no power. She thought those candles were for romance, but we got to keep the light on. Anyway, tell me why this movie's a 10 out of 10.
All right. It's a 10 out of 10 because especially now in 2021, and I don't do this very often, but I'm gonna continue what Lego was saying about the anti-hero. Was that you, Lego? Was that Jose? The anti-hero and how they're making excuses for all the bad guys to be good.
No, that was Jose.
Okay, well, I apologize. Jose, I'm piggybacking off of you. Right now, there are so many people on the streets who are good people doing good things, getting murdered, that get ignored. And so many bad people who get caught doing stupid shit, who feel the consequences of the bad shit that they're doing. And when it fits a certain narrative, the people who accidentally kill them are hitting bad spots. And I just want to use this movie as a reminder to myself that, there's personal responsibility in who we are and the actions that we take. And if you do bad shit, then bad shit's going to happen to you. And people have to stand up straight with their shoulders back and accept who they are.
Nice. Right on. 10 buckets. Hell yeah. Woo! I love that. All right, Josh, tell me why this is 10 buckets. I know you got in here a little bit late, but you agree, 10 buckets. Let's hear it.
Well, there's a lot to be said about this movie. I'm not sure how much I missed because I tried to jump in as quick as I could, but going by the criterion that Nate laid out, it's kind of hard to not give it a 10. I know. So before I watched it, I was a little bit nervous going into it because I remember when I watched it when I was younger, I had a very visceral reaction to it, especially the rape scenes. I found them so shocking when I was younger. And the weird thing is I watched it now and the movie almost didn't have any kind of reaction like that for me. And I don't know if that's because over the years I've seen movies like 8mm and 7 and stuff like that. And then you go back and watch Clockwork Orange and you're just kind of desensitized to like really graphic violence. but and I noticed a lot of. It struck me while I was watching the film that there were several things. You know, you were talking about the music and how it's associated with violence, and I remember when I was watching that, you know, the Singing in the Rain scene, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, it reminds me of the scene from Reservoir Dogs, Stuck in the Middle with You. You know, you hear this song, which is kind of like a folksy rock song, and here he's like sawing off a dude's ear. And then, you know, I couldn't help with the dystopian stuff, you know, just thinking about things like V for Vendetta, and of course, you know, the present age that we're in. There are just so many things that kind of keyed off in the middle of this movie, and I think that's what kind of brings it up to that epic level. You know, it has enduring value. I really didn't get the sense that anything was all that dated. I found it funny, you know, that that futuristic car that they were driving in was supposed to be like a 95, and I'm like, man, I didn't have a sweet ride like that in 95. But no, this is definitely a 10 out of 10. I can't. While the movie has a lot of rough edges to it, a lot of rough content, it's a piece of art, man. It's well done. So it's a 10 for sure.
Nice. Well, I couldn't agree with all you guys more. It is a 10 out of 10. And I think I heard all of you say that it was a 10 out of 10. Maybe one of you said 9, but I think you meant 10.
I want to go to that milk bar.
Dude, that milk bar is a perfect expression of why this movie is a perfect piece of art. The women, the bartenders are literally statues that are serving the drinks. They're sexual objects, and like they're literally art forms. They're just a piece of the fixture. They're not even human, but they are. Like, if you were to actually like look at it, if you were to do a realistic view, the pouring the drink out of the nipple would be a woman serving that guy a drink. And it's so artistic, it's so brilliant, and it's a critique on art, it's a critique on society, and it's timeless because, man, this movie is 50 years old. So 10 out of 10, as stated at the beginning of this video. Jose, 10 out of 10. Isaac, 10 out of 10. Nate, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. And so that'll wrap it up for Late to the Party. I am your host this week, Jason. I think we're gonna pick our next movie on our live stream. So if you're not joining us on the live stream Monday nights, you should get on there, because that's where we spin our wheel, pick all our movies, and you know, they can't all be this good, but they're probably all gonna be this good. So we'll see you next time. Peace out, guys.
Some of that ultraviolet.